BlazeBodyz, what's going on, everyone? Listen, I want to try something new. I want to do a little cooking segment. Every week, maybe I'll come up with one of the many weird, crazy things that I eat. I'm sure you're all curious. At this point in my life, I've learned to appreciate a little bit of taste, believe it or not. All those years of competing and eating just the same boring things all the time, sometimes you want it to taste relatively okay. So at least twice a week, I'll show you what I make in regards to my carbs that I have in addition to my protein that I have at night in my dinner. I usually eat a lot of raw veggies earlier in the day with my protein, and my nighttime carbs is again just from veggies. I don't eat any starchy carbs, any sugar. I don't eat any complex stuff unless it's in my off season and I'm trying to put some weight on. So the majority of my carb sources are from fibrous veggies. One of those things that I really like to make is cauliflower mash. All right. So we all love like mashed potatoes, but I don't want to eat potatoes or any starchy carbs. So I use cauliflower and I make it into a mash with the same consistency as mashed potatoes. So I'll show you what I do, okay? I get a full head of cauliflower. This is a medium size, for the most part. It's large. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get this going. We're gonna chop everything up, and we gotta boil it down, and we gotta mash it eventually into the consistency of mashed potatoes. So you want to use the whole entire cauliflower. That includes everything on the bottom, all the stuff that you think you would normally throw away. Believe it or not, you want to use all that. So you're gonna break this all up, get it all off. Usually there's a stem on the bottom. You gotta cut that off. And you need to cut everything up into very small pieces, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna boil everything so we can make everything nice and soft, so we can blend it down to a nice soft consistency like mashed potatoes. All right, so you're gonna transfer everything into a bowl. Then you're gonna continue on. And you're gonna break this down into big, moderately sized chunks. Again, it'll cook quicker, and it'll boil down, and it'll get softer. You can't do this when it's all raw. Okay. They have like already cooked cauliflower mash in a supermarket, but from personal experience, it's pretty gross. It's just mushy and disgusting. All right, so I'm gonna break all this down. I'm gonna continue to transfer it over to the bowl. All right, it does tend to make a mess because those little chunks go everywhere. Gotta be careful. Okay. So let's continue on. Let's get this all cut up. Be careful with the knife. Now, FYI, cauliflower is an excellent source of fibrous carbs. Extremely, extremely fibrous. Barely any impact on your insulin levels that complex carbs would give you. Okay. So you can eat a lot more of it and you can get full. That's what you want. You want calorically dense foods in your daily intake to avoid all the insulin. that gets dumped into your blood from all the carbs. All right, so we're gonna carry on with this, transfer it all over. Okay, another health tip, I'm using a wooden cutting board. You don't wanna use plastic because you don't even realize it, but you're cutting up little particles of plastic in your food, in your body, and that's gonna cause problems. All right. So we got it all we got it all here in the pot. What we're gonna do is we're gonna fill this up with water. Bear with me as I try to finagle this and make it look relatively okay. So we're gonna fill this up all the way to the top, because we're gonna get this on the stove and we're gonna boil this up. Okay, get it all the way to the top, just over the top as you have it filled. All right, what I like to do as a little bit of a trick, and I do this too with other things, once you get it filled, you're gonna add a little bit of salt, a little sodium. You're gonna add a little bit of sodium in there. That's gonna help the water boil quicker. So get a bunch in there. Let's mix that up. All right, we're gonna transfer this over to the stove. I'm gonna get this on the stove. All right, we're gonna get this thing turned up as high as we can on the stove. All right, we're gonna get this done. Now when this thing comes to a boil, I'll come back to you, okay? It'll probably take about 10 minutes to get things boiling. See you in a bit. We're back. All right, so the cauliflower has now almost come to a boil. As you can see, it's just about ready to boil. We're gonna transfer this all over. We're gonna bring it all the way over to the sink and strain it and transfer it into a bowl so we can then blend it down into a mashed consistency. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna head over. Bear with me now as I finagle the phone. All right. All right, I have a strainer in the sink. Just gonna strain it out, transfer the whole thing in there. All right, make sure you get all the bits in there from the pot. Strain it out. I'm going to transfer it over to a bowl that I have here. Big bowl. All right, so what we're going to do is, what you need is a stick blender. Right here, one of these jobs, all right? These are very, very useful. I've been doing this for years and years, and I've literally been using this stick blender for about 5-6 years now. It's come in handy. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna get the thing plugged in, ready to go, and we're gonna blend this down until it's a mashed consistency. All right, this thing's loud, so forgive me. I'll just show you a few minutes of it. You're gonna just continue to go at it until everything is soft and like mashed potatoes. All right, I'll be back in a few. All right, so we got everything blended down with the stick blender, and as you can see, it's got a mashed potato-like texture. It's nice and soft. And what we need to do is now, by itself, it's going to have the texture of mashed potatoes, but it's not going to be very flavorful. In fact, there's zero flavor. I like it because I'm nuts, but so you're gonna have to add a few ingredients. What I like to use is whatever I'm making. 99% of the time, I always include onion powder, okay, garlic powder, black pepper, and I personally like, for this particular meal, the flavor of butter, but I'm not going to add real butter because I'm trying to stay super strict. So I use this particular company. They make a thing called BlazeBodyz Steakhouse. It's got a real nice buttery flavor to it. That's like, for me, that's the magic ingredient. So you're going to mix all that in, right? A little bit of everything. And what I like to do is, as the magic ingredient, I like to add some guacamole to this mix. So let's get our ingredients in there. All right. We got a little bit of onion powder, a little garlic powder, a little black pepper. You know, it's up to you how much you want to put in there. And then the magic ingredient, is my favorite, is the BlazeBodyz Steakhouse to give it that buttery flavor. And then I'm going to add, what I do is, because this whole head of cauliflower, I can get 2 days out of it, 2 servings. For you people, normal people, you could probably get 3 or 4 days out of it, all right? But I eat a lot of fiber, so we're gonna get the guac. I use half a container. I used the other half last night in dinner. Half a container of the guacamole. I like the chunky, spicy style. I get it from Market Basket, but you can use your own, whatever you want to do. So we'll get all that in there as well. All right, make sure you don't miss anything. All right, want to mix it all up. The guac is going to give it a little bit more creaminess, and because it's the chunky, spicy variety, it's going to give it a little bit more spice to it, in addition to the onion powder and the garlic powder and the buttery stuff. So get it all mixed up really well, nice and soft. And what I like to do is go back in afterwards with another sprinkling of the BlazeBodyz Steakhouse, just to make sure it's got that buttery flavor, all right? So there it is. Cauliflower mash. Now a little nutrition advice, or not advice, information. 1 large, medium-sized to large cauliflower, like we just used, which is giving me 2 servings. For you, it's 3 or 4. The whole entire thing, if I ate this whole thing, and I have been known to do that, is about 44 grams of carbs. 21 of that is fibrous. It's fiber, insoluble fiber. So the net total amount of carbs is about 20-something grams, which is not a lot considering the volume that this is coming with. So that's a good way to get good soluble, good fiber in your diet, slow things down. I'm gonna have this with some grilled pork tenderloin I made earlier, and this is my carb source. I have my fat source in here from the guacamole. That half container of the guac had about 10 or 12 grams of fat. So I got my essential fats, I got my fiber, minimal carbs Mostly protein. All right, that's it. I'm gonna try to do more of these segments. I'll make it look all fancy, and I'll put some funny stuff. Of course, you know me. But that's that. Cooking with Jerry. All right, I'll see you all soon. Hope everything's going well. Take care.